Hello everyone, we are Group 5. Our title is Power and Corruption, the Anatomy of the Ferdinand Marcos Case. Our group members include 刘嘉璇、刘欣然、张泽奇、焦新月、彭佳怡、吴章宇、尚军、齐正元、张嘉熙, and 张一伟. The content of our presentation includes introduction, case study background, and discussion. Next, I will give a brief introduction. Today, I will be introducing the case of Ferdinand Marcos, a powerful yet deeply controversial figure in Philippine history. Marcos served as the country's president from 1965 to 1986, making him the longest-serving president in the Philippines. He rose to power promoting economic and social reforms, but his administration became notorious for corruption, political opposition, and crony capitalism. When he attempted to secure a fourth term, mass protests in Europe ultimately forcing him into exile in Hawaii after the People Power Revolution. Under his rule, the Philippines faced severe political and economic turmoil. Marcos maintained strict political control, suppressed opposition, and committed widespread human rights violations, making his regime a serious threat to democracy. Moreover, his family was deeply involved in alleged money laundering and corruption, reportedly embezzling between $5 to $10 billion in national wealth. These issues revealed a clear case of how absolute power can lead to absolute corruption.
Hello everyone, now we'll walk you through the case study background of the Ferdinand Marcos case. Let's begin with the main people involved. The central figure is Ferdinand Marcos, who served as the 10th president of the Philippines from 1965 to 1986. He began his presidency with promise of economic growth and infrastructure development. However, over time, his rule transformed into a dictatorship, especially after he declared martial law in 1972. His administration had been accused of widespread corruption, human rights violations, and the embezzlement of state funds. Another key figure is Imelda Marcos, his wife, who held various positions in government. She gained international attention for her extravagant lifestyles, perhaps most famously for owning thousands of pairs of luxury shoes. She, along with their children, relatives, and political allies, was accused of helping to move and hide vast amounts of wealth obtained through corruption and abuse of power. Now let's look at the timeline and the location of the case. The events span from 1965 to 1986. During Marcos' presidency in 1972, he declared martial law, consolidating power and suppressing opposition. This period saw a surge in corruption. In 1986, mass protests known as the People Power Revolution forced the Marcos family into exile in Hawaii. Marcos passed away in 1989, but efforts to recover the stolen assets have continued through the 1990s and even into recent years, including through international corporations. The corruption was concentrated in the capital city of Manila, particularly in government agencies and the Malacanang Palace, the presidential residence. The stolen money was transferred internationally to Switzerland, the United States, Hong Kong, and other locations using real estate deals, artwork, and offshore companies. Now let's talk about the scale and the method of corruption. It's estimated that the Marcos family embezzled between $5 and $10 billion. The corruption involved several methods. Embezzlement through manipulated budgets and fake infrastructure projects. Bribery, including forced protection fee and taking shares from industry like mining and sugar. Money laundering, by hiding assets in Swiss bank accounts, U.S. real estate and share companies, and even confiscating property from political opponents under the pretense of martial law.
As a part of the discussion, I will talk about some of the key reasons why crime and corruption grew during the time of martial law in the Philippines. In 1972, President Marcos declared martial law. He took full control of the government, stopped the constitution, and shut down Congress. People who spoke against him, like journalists and politicians, were silenced. This fear gave him the power to rule without limits, and the corruption became worse. There were no checks and balances. The government spending was not open to the public. Courts and the auditors were under Marcos' control. That meant no one could question his action. He also used dynamic politics. Marcos gave top position to his family and close friends. This led to nepotism, where people were chosen not for skills, but for loyalty. As a result, public money and power stayed within a small group. However, after his rule, some laws helped hold him accountable. The Anti-Graft and Corporate Practice Act was used to fight the case. With help from Swiss courts, some of the Marcos' hidden money was found and returned to the Philippines. This shows how power without limits, lack of transparency, and political favoritism can lead to crime and injustice.
The Marcos regime devastated the Philippines economically. Massive debate and corruption caused extreme poverty. Institutionally unchecked power distracted public trust, crippling democracy. This sparked the 1986 People Power Revolution, ending the dictatorship. There is a key countermeasures. The first is asset recovery. The PCGG reassembled $5 billion of Marcos' stolen wares. The second is legal action. Lawyers frozen offshore funds, ensuring accountability. The last one is reform. The 1987 Constitution restored term limits, checks and balance, and anti-corruption bodies. This step should fighting corruption damages blood legend action, institutional reform, and global corruption.
Lessons from the Marcos case. The Marcos case shows us that corruption is very dangerous. First, we need transparency and freedom of speech to stop corruption. Openness, clear information, and media checks are the first way to fight corruption. If people and the media can speak freely, they can watch the government and stop bad actions. Second, power must be controlled. When too much power is in one place, it can cause corruption. Without checks, people may use power in the wrong way, so we need rules to stop this from happening. Third, if corruption becomes normal, the whole country will suffer. Democracy will break, the economy will become weak, and people will stop trusting each other. In conclusion, corruption can undermine democracy institutions, drain national wealth, and create social injustice. The economy has been severely damaged, and national development has been hindered for a long time. Restoring justice and rebuilding democracy requires long-term institutional reforms and social efforts. If corruption is not stopped, the consequences will be far-reaching. The fight against corruption and the pursuit of justice must be unremitting. Okay, that's all. Thank you for listening.